Let's have a round of applause for Mo. So Mo, you know my husband. I've heard a lot about you over the years. You were traveling together many years ago, both with two different films. My husband's film, I think Disappearances, and this film, right?
Yeah, it was in 2007. I was doing the festival circuit for this film, actually.
Yeah.
And the American Film Institute, AFI, had this filmmaker exchange program with Returners Round, so I was partnered with Jay. And
the rest is history.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well,
I'm glad to meet him.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you and this movie.
Thanks.
So, you know, wow. I mean, just so many twists and turns. I mean, I kept thinking, God, you know, were you at a place where it was like, okay, I thought the movie was done now, but no, now something else is happening, and oh, there's a twist and turn. Now she's in the United States, and you know, I mean, how many years did it take you to make this film?
So I followed her from 2002 till 2006. And the ending was from, now it's been a while since I've actually even seen this film, but in the process of making this film, one of the big challenges was actually finding an ending. Because, and keep in mind, this was my second film, so I was still, you know, in the early phase of my filmmaking career. And the thing is, with nonfiction, nothing ever really ends.
I know,
right?
Believe me, I know.
But the last scene that I shot in the film was literally the last scene that you see in this movie. And it was just coincidental. I was actually in that scene as well, just sitting on stage, of course, a lot younger and thinner, but something occurred to me when I was sitting there on stage that would have been impossible to witness when I began making this film, which was there was a crowd of boys and girls sitting together, learning and talking about women's rights and human rights. That was an impossibility in 2002. Mm-hmm. In fact, this was such a patriarchal and fiercely violent community that this scene would have caused a lot of pushback and a lot of needless violence, and would have ended up in tragedy. But here, it changed, and literally this one woman actually did make a change, and it was physically represented. And so I'm like, this is it. This is the ending. You know?
Yeah, so, beautiful. Yeah. So, I guess, you know, probably the question on everybody's lips is, so that was in 2008, it's now 10 years later, so how many other hospitals and, you know, art centers and everything else has she built in that school? She's like the mayor of that town now, right?
She kind of is. I mean, she's expanded beyond just her town. It's more in the southern Punjab region. She's expanded her reach, and she has a few different schools. And she's working with different not-for-profits that are based here in the States, Europe, and even not-for-profits in Pakistan that support her different initiatives and things. And a big turn that's happened with her, of course, is she's married again. She married one of the head of security, the police officers. She has two children, Dua, a little girl and a little boy. So that's really good too, you know, that she's actually managed to do that. And to just kind of give you a numerical value, by the time, when I first started making this film, there were about 20 students enrolled in her class, which showed how many people were willing to trust to send her to her school. By the end of me making this film, I think it was closer to 1,000. And then that was again, you know, at this point 10, 12 years ago. And the last I checked, which was about 3 years ago, it had expanded to close to 6,000, 7,000 or something. And her students had gone off even beyond her school to enroll in university and complete their undergraduate and stuff. So she had a few students like that too. This is incredible.
Yeah. One of the things that I found absolutely fascinating about the film, and you kept sort of coming back to it, was this other tribe, I'm sorry, I'm going to forget their name. But
Muslim.
yeah. And this, first of all, the whole concept that, she's here and they're like, whatever, 700 feet away from her. I felt like that. But the fact that they, this relationship beyond, the trial and everything, this clan that was there that was so resentful and so alienated after what happened to her. I'm wondering, was there any reconciliation there? Did any of those people ultimately, did any of their kids go to school? I mean, are they still sitting there seething? I mean, what has happened there?
Yeah, well.
Right, the one boy, but I mean.
Well, I purposely obviously included that because that was the beginning of the talk between their relations. And just to keep in mind, the Mastoi themselves is like an extended family clansman of extended relatives, which I guess are about, in that region, about 200-300 people, or 400 people. 400 people.
Yeah.
The family that committed this crime was two specific families within that tribe. But of course, it is tribal customs that, regardless of right or wrong, they're just going to side with their kinsmen. That changed because the Mastoi did start sending their children to her school. And I'm glad some of you caught that in the end, that they had actually sent, well, it wasn't just actually this one boy, they sent a few of their girls and some other boys to her school. So now I'm sure it's even more further along and stuff.
So the other question I had, and we'll open it up for questions, is just, how prevalent or widespread is this kind of thing in Pakistan? I mean, I'm assuming this didn't just happen here, that it happened in other places. And, 15 years later, has there been a real change? I mean, people, when somebody feels slighted, do they take it out on these women? Is this still happening? I mean, this rape culture.
Well, I should point out that this is unfortunately not just something that happens in Pakistan, it happens all over the world.
Right.
And there is a culture of rape that exists all over the world. I think what I can say about in Pakistan is that compared to some Western countries, we don't have the rights or the correct legal framework to actually protect the rights of these women and to hold perpetrators accountable.
Is that still the case, would you say, or has it gotten better?
It got better in the sense that we had this insane archaic rule where you needed 4 adult male witnesses to have witnessed the act of rape and penetration under the Sharia law ruling to proclaim it as whether it was rape or not. So that was thrown out. And it was like, no, we're just going to rely on science, which was nice, But then, and I must admit, I'm a little rusty in the last few years. This has been a highly politicized issue within our parliament. Mm-hmm. So I believe that the next government that came in did away with that legislation again and brought in the old legislation, and then it was thrown out again. So I'm not exactly sure where we are at this point. Statistically, I can't speak for all of Pakistan. Honor crimes, tribal customs, those have existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it goes on beyond just religion or anything like that. It has to do a lot with tribal and cultural identity. And undoing those things takes a lot of time. what has happened and what the Pakistani government and other groups have done in recent years, which is just excellent innovation in trying to undo some of this damage, is they've made it mandatory in some areas to have women be part of the panchayat and the tribal council. Because you're not going to go in there suddenly and impose Western values and like, let's get rid of this tribal council and we're going to do this. You can't do that. You have to find indigenous solutions. And I think that has made a remarkable difference, especially in her area, in Mukhtar and Mai's area. And I can say, of course, in her area and her village, yeah, no such incident has really taken place.
And of course, when you say, we can't take Western traditions and impose them on us, we're struggling in the West with plenty of our own problems, i.e. your short film. Whether it's Harvey Weinstein or whoever, I mean, yes, we're probably ahead of you in some ways, but we're certainly not there because we still have a lot of rape culture in this country too.
Well, we did elect a female president, prime minister.
Okay, there you go.
I think they're using things, so.
Yeah. So, questions from people, thoughts? Yes.
Well, I'm still wondering about Shakur, and because he was raped and tortured. And I wonder how many Shakurs there are and what kind of action, social help victims like that get.
It's interesting that you actually bring up that question. And not my next film, it wasn't the film directly after this, but another film, 2 films after this, I did another film 6 years back called Pakistan Sit in Shame, which looks specifically at sexual abuse of boys. And that has been a recent occurrence in the last 5-6 years where people have started turning their attention to boys who were abused as well, who are, grew up in the cycle of abuse and things like that. With Shakur, what happened was, although he wasn't the main focus of my story, the family did take his attackers to court. They were tried, they were found guilty. And aside from that, he did go through several years of therapy after the incident, as of I. So I can tell you that specific incident, that's what happened with Shakur.
Yeah.
Actually, a related question. I don't think we'll ever know. Do you have a personal opinion on whether Shakur and the Mastoy woman had an affair, or if you have any question or doubt about his honor and with that? I'm just curious because you were
I think it was a consensual, not even affair, really, like a slight flirtation.
Makeout session.
If that, I think he had a crush on her.
Wow.
And I think Salma, this is just from speaking to the different village folk, I think she just liked that she was living this kind of imprisoned life to have an interaction with someone outside her family and someone who likes her, she liked the attention, and that's it. It was fairly innocent and teenage in its nature, which then manifested itself into this.
Yeah.
The question about due process, this is 4 years, and what dedication and commitment to this. So I don't know if you were also then engaged in other films while this was going on, and this story that was coming to you, it kept growing. But within that, you were part of, there was a little section that you must have been part of the story because they were doing all this stuff about the media, and you were filming during this time. So I was wondering what it felt like to be you and what kind of impact that had on you when they were attacking the media.
Well, I like to consider myself a little separate from the media because we're long-form documentarians. So,
But you were filming, right? They saw you filming.
yeah, there's something from me and all that. I felt at least a little better in the sense that I actually went to them to at least even speak to the Naqvi, for example, family. To even have them, let them have their say, which I think no one was doing. So in that sense, I felt a little, absolved and better. Having said that, I obviously realized making this film and being, well, first of all, I should even tell you a little bit about the genesis of the story. Mukhtar and my story was a fairly huge story when it first broke in 2002. And we had Nicholas Kristoff and everyone covering it. And there was several documentary teams trying to get access to Mukhtar and Mai. I was one of many. The only difference was I was fairly inexperienced and a lot younger at that time. And it's not lost on me how privileged and honored I am that she chose me, a man, to tell her story and to share such intimate details. And I took that responsibility very seriously. I realized that I would be bringing her story to a Western audience, not just and beyond just news. And that would, of course, have impact beyond just the film broadcast, where you'd have different NGOs and groups and things involved that would support her, possibly. And that did happen, and it still happens to this day. I'm still in touch with Mukhtar, although production finished on this film 12 years ago. And I think I'll always be in touch with her because she is one of my heroes. My role, I don't know how to describe it because on the one hand I am supposed to stay very, very inconspicuous and very much out of it. But at the same token, I know I'm not. By virtue of me being there, by virtue of making this film, I think everyone in that village community knew that me and my crew were there and were very much aware of us.
And of course, as a documentary filmmaker, anytime you're making a film, you are making editorial decisions, you are shooting certain things, you are making decisions all the time, and aware, I think, of when the film gets done that you are taking somebody's story and putting it out there, and that's going to make an impact in whatever, hopefully in a positive way.
Yes, and what I didn't want to do was make a really dark film that just freezes itself in trauma, and that's it. Because I didn't think that would be fair to Mukhtar and Mai. Of course, I wanted her to be very happy with the end product, I think that was very important for me. Because she goes beyond trauma. She transcends it, And it could have easily been, she could have easily been known forever, even in Pakistan. Almost like a scarlet letter, as the woman who was gang raped. But she's not. She's an international icon. Even in Pakistan, she's really beloved now. And if I was able to help in creating even a small change in my country's psyche, I'm thrilled. I think I did my job. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Couple more questions.
Way back there.
What happened to the rapists? Did they get freed?
Okay, what happened to the rapists?
So the 6 that were accused, one of them got the life imprisonment, was still in jail. 5 of them, unfortunately, were acquitted in 2011 and 12 for some legal technicality in the Supreme Court where there was like faulty handling of evidence and things like that. What has happened since then is that Mokhtar's lawyers have filed for a judicial review of that decision. But it's a long and arduous process that is still happening. So.
Okay, one more question.
Yes, over here.
I was just curious, did you experience animosity or pushback or threats in making this and telling the story?
Good
What
question.
you did that?
Yes, I did, from what I remember, from at least a lot of, and I should say, some of my biggest fans and supporters of this movie have also been Pakistani audiences. But one thing I wanted to do was, I didn't want to just show the movie in Pakistan to film festival or elite audiences or English-speaking, like bilingual people like as me. I wanted to actually go to the villages and actually show the Mokhtar and Mice Village and other places. And actually that's what we did back in the day. So those were some of the best screenings. And they were really charged where people really, really loved the film and some of them really despised it. And then they kind of had an argument and stuff amongst themselves. And I think one of the pushback that we received before showing the film in some of these rural areas is that you guys are just puppets of the West to spread a colonial agenda, and this is just propaganda to kind of contribute to that. And that's how, unfortunately, in Pakistan, how many documentaries are known. I think that's changing. So that was some of the pushback that I received.
Well, thank you so much for making this movie.